Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's up?
Dude, I'm kind of lost. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel lost, all out of sorts. We had no football yesterday. Uh, the Bantams ended their season this weekend at District. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then I don't know about you, but I felt lost. We had no bowling yesterday. I was at the
Yeah.
house, nothing to do, no trip to the lanes to get ready to bowl, no nothing like that. So I was like, I felt a little out of sorts yesterday, and I'm still trying today being a day off. I just kind of out of it.
Well, wow, we did not have football or bowling. I was still busy watching Daytona 500. I was able to call PA for the baseball team. We're going to have Aidan Nagle on here just in a minute or two. I'm going to thank him right now for changing his schedule because I told everyone the incorrect times because I am still set on our normal Tuesday time. And this is like the third or fourth time I have screwed that up in 3 or 4 attempts on this Monday show. I am so glad next week we go back to normal because my brain is still stuck on normal and I can't adjust myself.
Yeah, 100% because it's gonna be odd not going and rushing someplace on a Tuesday or a Friday to get the games going, or and even having to hurry to go get bowling scores done and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be kind of downtime for a couple weeks till AFL starts. I'm excited. We're only 3 weeks from AFL.
Almost there. You got to have something to watch. We are very, very excited for that and getting that back on the show. I've been rearranging the office. I've just realized how much of a glare that's right up here. It's driving me nuts. So I apologize for that. I have not gotten my lighting set up, just back up yet. Um, a lot of moving pieces and parts, but it's going to be a jam-packed show. Yes, we have no NFL to talk about. We have small news bits to talk about at the end of the show. But as you said, it is all playoff time as far as high school basketball and wrestling go right now. We will be talking all about that. Playoff time coming up for LC basketball as well. Crazy weekend for both the women and the men. And we will have Khalil Stevenson on in about an hour to also talk about that. MLB, hopefully they had a longer talk today. I have not seen reports yet on all that they talked about and anything that they have improved on yet. Had a couple crazy fights in the NCAA. The NBA All-Star game happened, and I might think that it's worse than the Pro Bowl, which is really, really hard to say. We're going to, of course, have our sports-related draft and all of that. But first, well, not yet. He was all set up, and then he left. So I was getting things ready because he was moving around. There he is. All right, let's get him in here. Thank you again, Aidan Nagle, for changing things up on the fly as I realized a little late that I was telling people our normal Tuesday times and not Monday. But Aidan, what's going on, man? Oh, we got Aidan muted over there.
How's that?
There he is. There we go. Perfect. How's it going, Aidan?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Tired.
Same. Enjoying the off day.
Yeah, not a lot of off days right now. A lot of doubleheader on Saturday, game on Sunday, game before that on Friday. You guys are like 16 games into the season, and I feel like snow just finally got off the ground.
I know. I was outside today and it was still snowing. So hopefully it'll hold up soon so we can continue our good streak that's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. 15-1 on the year, won 9 straight. What do you account that for?
I mean, we're just improving every day. I mean, we're just trying to get better as we go. Arizona was good. We handled our business well until the end. And as far as we've gotten home, I mean, we've just done what we've needed to do. Still need to get better in every way. But we're happy with the way things are going right now, and we're going to take the wins when we get them.
Anything's got to be better right now than a shortened COVID season last year. Talk a little bit about how things look compared to the COVID season.
I mean, it's just so nice to be able to play and just not have to worry about being shut down or nothing else like that. And it's nice being able to get to know my teammates the way they are every day. And I know I can spend 6 months with them instead of worrying about, is the next day going to end? And right now I know I'm going to spend the next 6 months with the guys that are next to me, and we got to make it work.
So obviously coming in with LC in 2020, that season we don't need to talk about and everything that went on with that. 2021, your first experience with the NAIA World Series. How was your first experience with that?
It was tough. Not tough, but it was a hit to me, definitely, in that first game. It was a big crowd, big atmosphere, just something I'd never experienced before. And once we got the first game out of the way last year, we were able to get through that and find a way to try to get it done. And unfortunately we didn't, but I loved it. It was electric and it was fun and it was competitive and great players everywhere. And it was fun. I mean, it was no other, fun is the best word for it. High competitiveness and high competition. It was great.
Well, I mean, Randy and I both love our baseball. We eat and breathe baseball and football, but there's just something about being affiliated with some. Talk a little bit about the high school and your high school career down in Maria Carrillo. And also you had a little time at junior college. Talk a little bit about those two experiences before coming to LC.
So I went to a school for 3 years and then I transferred to Maria Carrillo for my senior year of high school. And I loved it. I loved being a part of the new team. They accepted me with open arms and I fit right in and we had a great season, and it just came to an end, sadly. And so I went to JUCO, to Cuesta College in San Luis Obispo, and I loved it. I played my freshman year there and ended up getting hurt, having to have surgery my sophomore year, and then was able to finish my junior year there and redshirt sophomore year, I guess. And I loved it. I mean, every part of it was fun for me. I enjoyed meeting the people I met there and making new friends on the team and competing with different players in California. And I thought it was a great time.
Do you see it being a good stepping stone to get here to LCSC now?
Yeah, 100%. It was a change for sure. Definitely coming from a California baseball, just the way we play out there, coming to here. And I love it here. And I honestly wish for California JUCOs to be more like LC and to want to be as good as LC and as much as we are here.
So what was it about LC that made you want to come up here to play baseball?
Just the legacy. I knew going into my sophomore year that I needed to go NAIA, and obviously the best NAIA is LC. So I set my goals at the beginning of the season to get to LC, and I did. And I can't be any happier with where I am right now.
Well, you're majoring right now in kinesiology. There's something after LC that maybe you want to stay here in the area, or are you missing home?
I'll probably stay around in the area for a little bit, at least next fall, 100%. And yeah, I mean, I love it here. I think it's great here, except except winters. Winters are kind of hard to get used to here. 100%. Never dealt with the snow, but I think it's great here. I love the town. I love the people, and I love my teammates. And I've met some great friends here, and I plan to keep them as friends for the rest of my life.
How is the atmosphere with the team? Obviously, like you said, it was tough to get to know a lot of the team with the whole COVID situation that first year, but a large group of you there. It looks like you're having fun in the games, and of course, you watch the Warrior Web stuff where you guys start goofing around and trying to guess song titles and stuff. How is the whole atmosphere with the team?
I think it's great. I think everybody gets along, and everybody's starting to buy into like what we are about, and how much hard work it really takes to go into the program for us to be successful. And I think everybody's meshing together and realizing that everyone needs to be on the same page, and we all need to be brothers pretty much for us to accomplish our goal, which is to win the national championship. And we're just trying our best. And I mean, a lot of new guys this year, definitely, compared to last year. And we're trying to fit them in as well as possible. And they're doing a great job cultivating into the culture that we have here.
Now, you made 43 starts last year, and you look at any of these numbers, and for me, it just blows my way to look at your stats from last year, batting over 380, an OPS of 1.174, 13 home runs, 66 RBIs, and slugging over 720. What if you were a stat guy? What stat are you really working on to really better your game? Which one stands out that you really want to make sure that is successful in your career?
RBIs, 100%. RBIs win baseball games, and RBIs help the team as much as possible as any other stat. There's
a reason why my parents named me what they did. My initials were RBI. Unfortunately, my talent did not add to it. So only the name worked.
Sometimes there's off seasons. It's all right. But yeah, I think RBIs is definitely. I think any player should look at RBIs as the most important stat. I mean, runs wins games, and if I can drive in as many runs as possible, then I'm doing my job and I'm helping my team in the most important way, in my mind.
Speaking of RBIs, you had 3 of them on Sunday afternoon, and your ending of the sweep of, I'm blanking on the team name that we just played.
Central
Oregon. Yeah. Central Washington there. 7 runs in the second inning. Just kind of go over how that inning felt as a team, because you guys obviously batted around and then some in that inning. And I only really think one hit ball was really crushed hard at all. Everything else was just finding holes. And I, from what I was able to see, you guys were taking your time finding the right pitch. But it was an interesting elements because the wind was insane on Sunday.
Yeah, the wind was nuts. I think we hit at least 3 balls that could have gone out if there was no wind. But I mean, I love our team and I love our lineup. We have a great first 2 with AJ Davis and Riley Way, and then Luke White and Sam Linscott behind me to follow whatever I can do for the team. And I just like how we can combine our hits together, and we're trying to stick to an approach of up the field and straight up the middle. And we're just finding ways to get it done. We've been great with 2 outs, I think, this year. And I think that's a really high point for us. And for us to keep moving forward and try to string together 6, 7 guys in a row that can do the same thing and find a gap, I think we'll be good.
So this is the first year that LC is not guaranteed a spot in the World Series. Obviously, they have to now work through the opening round. They get to host the opening round this year, but is there a different feel around the team, or is it just business as usual for you guys?
I wouldn't say business as usual, but I mean, we know in the most respectful way possible, we know we're going to win going into weekends, but we have to think of it as it's a World Series game every game. And that's what we try to do, to try to put ourselves in those situations and to never lay off the gas and just to try to keep it going the whole time. And the World Series is something that is definitely in the back of our minds. I'd be lying if I told you it wasn't in the back of my mind. But opening round is definitely what we have to focus on and get through that before we can get to the series.
Hey, you've been talking about the World Series and everything. Now, conference play starting this weekend. What can you say to everybody listening about coming out and bringing that World Series atmosphere this weekend?
We're going to bring it. I mean, we have a lot of work to do this week in practice, 100%. And we're going to keep working as hard as we can every single day and try to get better every single day. And the weekends will show that 100%. The hard work
guys,
in practice.
If anybody's not been out there yet, definitely come out and check out this team. They're so much fun. I finally had a Sunday where I could go watch and do PA. I will be doing the doubleheader on Sunday and getting to watch a bit more as well. So very, very excited from this team, and hopefully we get more and more fans in there. I know Sunday was tough with how cold it was and the wind. My daughter wanted to go to her first game. She lasted a batter. She went, I can't do this, Grandpa, and then they took off. But I'm hoping we get more and more fans in the stands as the season goes on. But right now, I'm gonna lean it off to Robert over here and ask you the important questions we ask here on the R&R Sports Report.
So, Aidan, I don't know if you have followed any of it, but we do a lot of fun questions, get to know you a little bit better, and going into some of our fans just paying attention to our LC Warriors. So, lead off with some goofy questions just to see what your answers are, and we'll go from there. So, you ready to play?
Yeah, heck yeah.
All right. If you could host a talk show, who would be your first guest? And it doesn't have to be a sports person. Whatever person you want to interview first.
Jim Carrey.
Which version of Jim Carrey? He has went through a few iterations in his life.
Seems like he's got a different point of view on the world than everyone else. So just expand my mind a little, I guess.
There you go. One. Which household chore do you dread doing the most?
Dishes, without a doubt. Dishes.
So I have to pry it into this. So a bunch of you players all live in the same place?
Yeah, I am currently living with AJ Davis, Brooks Uhas, and Dale Takalo. And the dishes are it's a tough situation we find ourselves in a lot. But
do you guys make it a game in practice? Okay, whoever does the worst in this drill has to do the dishes that night?
No, but that's a good idea.
There you go.
It's
tough. I'm glad to help.
AJ's in the infield and I'm in the outfield, and then Brooks and Dale are pitching. But normally it'll just get to the point to where no more dishes can fit in the sink, and then someone finally musters up the courage to hop in there and do it.
So that might lead into what is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh. My biggest pet peeve. Honestly, I think I have so many to where I can't pinpoint it to one. I think, yeah, I don't really like in general, like my biggest pet peeve, or in the house.
Yeah, in general.
I hate seeing people on their phone driving. It just bothers me the most, I think.
I think I saw that 5 or 6 times just driving to Spokane this weekend to do the Bantam basketball and driving home. So, and when I'm talking in Spokane on the freeway, that's just crazy.
It's a bad idea.
Exactly.
It's a good pet peeve to have.
What is one important skill that every person should master?
Independence. Being able to function on your own and know your own limits and understand what you can achieve and how you can achieve them by yourself.
I love it. I
like
think
it.
that's probably one of the top answers I have ever heard anybody say. And being a teacher, I think that is one of the coolest answers I've ever heard. So
I'm over here laughing because he's given this great, insightful answer, and I know the next question.
All right. So we talked a little bit about dishes, and this one doesn't require a lot of dishes, but are you a huge PB&J fan? Do you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
No, I can't do them. The peanut butter just I can't deal with the dryness and the stickiness of the peanut butter.
There you go. Full on jelly guy.
Yeah, yeah. So if I could get a little bit of peanut butter and a lot of jelly, I could do it 100%.
That was where the question was going, is what was the percent? So so you thinking like 80% jelly or even more?
80-20 definitely. With some good bread. Needs to be some soft bread, definitely though.
All right. Hey, so we know you're a Warrior. You don't have to answer Warrior, but who's your favorite sports team? Do you follow baseball? Are you more of a baseball person, football person? What's your favorite sports team?
To be honest, I don't have a favorite team. Football, I like the Dolphins. Hard to talk about the Dolphins.
Yeah,
but
it could be worse for you.
I like players a lot more, I think, than I like teams. For some reason, just I feel like I can relate to players a lot more than I can relate to a lot of professional teams in a way, because there's so many personalities on professional teams that I think I don't really align with. But I like Kevin Durant a lot because he just likes basketball and he loves to play basketball, and that's all he really wants to do. And
honestly, that's a great way to have a look on sports these days, because no player really ever stays on the same team anyways.
Yeah.
So.
And nobody's really loyal these days to their teams. And I just like Kevin Durant a lot because he's himself. He really likes basketball and works super hard.
Nice.
And
right. Well, with that being said, I'm going to put you on the spot, and you don't have to say one of your housemates, but who's your favorite teammate to play with the Warriors?
I think I'd have to go with Coy Stout, 100%. I think I know every day when I come to the field that Coy's going to give the team his all, and he's going to work his hardest, and he's going to be the hardest worker out there. And if he sees someone working harder than him, he's going to keep pushing to work harder than them. And Coy comes out after hours of working on his farm, and he gives us everything he has, and can only respect that. And I love that out of Coy.
That's what I was going to say. Coy is a local boy out of Genesee. So shout out, just a sophomore too. So
yeah,
great to see him. And like you said, I mean, his family's got a huge place out there in Genesee. So mad props to him.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and he's earned his way into getting ABs this year and getting time in the field. And I'm super happy for Coy. I think Coy is the man, 100%.
All right, so we talked about Coy. Now we're going to talk about some of your other teammates and coaches. We play a game of word association to end off every interview. Give you a name. You just say the first thing that comes to your head, all right?
All right.
All right, we'll start with Riley Way.
Quick.
That's a good one. This is very truthful. I've seen many Riley Way games, and I totally agree. How about Matt James?
Powerful.
There you go. How about your roommate, A.J. Davis?
Sneaky.
I've known Randy and I have known AJ for a lot of years. I don't think I've ever heard that word describe AJ before.
Not in a bad way. Just little sneaky.
How about Luke White?
Strong, good hitter, honestly.
All right, how about Lewison's own and former LCSC player, now turned coach, Alan Balmer?
Tough.
Yeah, I remember him in high school being tough. So that makes sense. How about Jake Taylor?
Motivated.
By the way, I still get made fun of because I call him Jack Taylor a couple times on PA, and Alicia never lets me down. Lets me live it down at all. And then we have to end it with every interview the same way, but word association for Aidan Nagle.
Happy to be here.
I like it. All right, that is Aidan Nagle. And Aidan, thank you so much, not only for coming on the show and chatting with us for a few minutes, but bumping it up earlier than I had asked Alicia to tell you to, because again, I am living on our old schedule, not our month of February schedule. So I very much appreciate it, man.
No problem at all. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks,
Aidan Nagle and the LC Warriors will be back in action at home Saturday and Sunday. 2 doubleheaders. On Saturday, it starts at noon. Sunday starts at 11 a.m. as they start Cascade Conference play against Eastern Oregon. Again, fantastic start for them. And it's only going to go up from here, right?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Aidan.
Thanks, you.
Aidan.
Have a good.
That's Aidan Nagle. God, on a Warrior team, 15-1 right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
they're off to a very hot start. One loss, like you said, to Arizona Christian, to a very good team as well. Let's get into some other local sports. I'm going to go check to make sure my kids didn't die. Dinner didn't get fully out of the oven, and my 13-year-old was in charge of it. So I'm going to step away for a second. You tell us about Clarkson.
Clarkson ended up their season this last weekend. Tough way to go down, but we'll talk about the boys first. Boys, as they had one of the afternoon games up at University, and could not get the three-peat win against the West Valley Eagles. They lost in the semifinals, 72-44. The Bantams just couldn't get the ball to drop into the hoop. Lots of shots happening, but just could not physically get the baskets to drop. Bantams were outscored 21-9 in the second quarter, and 20-8 in the third quarter. At one point, West Valley had went on a 16-0 run, and so it was rough seeing the basketball just not go the way of the Bantams. West Valley's Roscoe Schroeder was a big part of that, as he hit 5 3-pointers all in the first half, and he ended up with a game high 20 points in that one. Xavier Santana had a team high of 12, Austin Steinman with 10, and Mason Vantine with 9. We turn our attention to the girls team, and the girls had a couple of games this weekend. They played Pullman up at University High School. There you are. University High School come away with a big win, outscored the Greyhounds 60-2 in the first quarter. They ended up winning that one 62-24. Bantam scored in double digits every quarter. Kendall Wallace, Erica Pickett, and Eloise Teasley all had 12 in that game. And so then we moved to the next game, and that happened to be in the arena. I was so excited about that, to finally get a call a game in the arena, but come up just short in that one and lost to West Valley 50-47. Quick start. Maggie Ogden got the tip, went straight to the rack, put it up for 2, and then they went on a 6-minute scoreless point at the one point where West Valley goes on a 14-2 run. Bantams just trailed by 17 at halftime. So it does get a little interesting in the fourth quarter. The Bantams are able to cut it down to 5, and Kendall Wallace takes one shot. The ball literally comes in and out of 3-point. He could have easily cut that lead to 2, and that ball does not fall. And so the momentum just, you could see, just goes out of the girls. So they end up losing that one 50-47. So both of the Clarkson Bantam squads are done for the season. So tough way to end not advancing out of districts, but do have some GSL all conference team things for the boys side. Honorable mention goes to Conrad Dudley, and then first team with Xavier Santana and Austin Steinwan. And then for the ladies, honorable mention goes to Eloise Teasley. Second team went to Alyssa Whittle, and then first team went to Kendall Wallace, Erica Pickett, and Maggie Ogden.
I'm very sad that it is done for both of the Clarkson teams. Difficult for Washington this year, still changing things up and only not even really having the extra district teams and winner take all tournaments are very difficult.
Well, what it is, we've moved to GSL, and so they don't want to do the crossovers with CWAC anymore. So CWAC gets an automatic 2, GSL just gets a 1. So it's a little difficult now having to deal with all of that stuff. But I really think there's still some ideas of happening with some restructuring going on. And there could easily be 2 new teams in with the GSL within the next 2 years, which is a strong possibility. And then that just bumps up our numbers to having 2 autos go in there. So
as long as they don't, I keep hearing things about Idaho expanding the state tournament. We don't need that.
No.
Stop it. But only having the 1 automatic bid. It'd be more interesting to see more play-in stuff for leagues, but state should kind of stick the way it is. I think it's the same for Washington. For Lewiston, boys pull off the big win against Coeur d'Alene. They beat them 51-46. They trailed almost that entire game. It was a great back and forth first quarter. The emotions were a bit high. Chancey gets a technical, kind of pushing each other with one of the Vikings players, but does settle down. Fantastic last few minutes by the Bengals, especially from Eek, who hit the big lay-in and got fouled on the play to give Lewiston basically their first lead since the first quarter. So they pull off the big win. Now they will head up to Lake City tomorrow. I'll be up there for that. And winner gets to head to state. Loser then has to kind of work in the backdoor state play-in. They would have to play the winner of Post Falls Coeur d'Alene on Thursday. And then if you win that, then it is the state play-in game in Grangeville on Saturday. So hopefully, Lake City is extremely tough. Still the number 1 team in the state in the 5A. I still say Lapway's the number 1 team in the state, period. But they do have 1 loss on the year, and it was to Lewiston. So we will see how that goes. And I just don't, zero issue with Coeur d'Alene people. I have no problem with the Vikings at all. I do not want to call another game in that gym because I've only had technical issues twice all season long. They both came in that gym. So I'm blaming the gym and not anything else. But we had a MiFi internet provider that never disconnected, but my radio setup and the MiFi hated each other and would just disconnect from each other multiple times throughout that broadcast. So it was nothing to do with Coeur d'Alene, but I'm blaming Coeur d'Alene for it. And Shannon Wilson listening. By the way, I always laugh. I'm watching right now Genesee and Clearwater Valley play in their district tournament. I always laugh when I turn on a random Idaho game and good district 2 official going, not me. I was going to say, I love turning this stuff on and just seeing Shannon Wilson running up and down the court. It's great.
Yeah, he's getting his exercise in. Yeah, and he had to listen to our games. I believe he was doing other games there down at the state tournament. So shout out to him getting back here. So with that being said, let's talk a little Idaho State girls basketball.
Oh, it was a 7:30 game. There you go.
7:30. So
yeah, Prairie Camui game. That's going to be a good one too.
Yeah, so let's talk a little state. Where do you want to dive in with this first? Which division would you like to start with?
Are we talking about girl stuff?
Yeah, let's talk girl stuff here first before we
let's talk about the team. I wrote about Grangeville, met the team, a fantastic group of girls up there. Unfortunately, do not get the job done. Had a tough loss against Aberdeen in the semifinals. After their win with Declo, which you wouldn't have expected them to struggle with, they struggled there in that first quarter of that game as well, and then completely dominated the second quarter, nearly shut out Declo in the second quarter to win that one 58-38. They do end up beating Melba, so they do finish third.
They avenged their loss from their earlier. That was one of their losses this year, was to Melba.
But again, meeting that whole group of girls, they have like 6 seniors on that team that all grew up together, had all been playing together since like the second grade, and this was going to be their last time. And you could kind of just talking to them at a practice before they went down to state, like they didn't want to show it, but the emotions were there. So I know they wanted to win, but still a fantastic year by the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and you look at the Bulldogs and the way they got there, and it just blows you away with what they did. I mean, they came to Lewiston. They played hard at the Vista tournament, so we did get to see them live and in action. But shout out to Cole Valley. Cole Valley was one of the teams that ended up winning it. That was one of Grangeville's losses besides Melba. So they beat Soda Springs, who Soda Springs also had traveled up to the Avista. So we got to see a lot of these girls early in the year, and how they finished out was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and the 1A D2, Deary ends up finishing third after knocking off Kendrick in the opening round. Just one of those weird situations where both teams that represent the White Pine League have to play each other in the first round.
Marty and I watched that game up at Lincoln on NFHS, and to see that the back and forth and it be a 3-point game on Thursday was just crazy.
Shannon said he had Cole Valley. They're very good. So, yeah, what was it? 42-39, Deary knocks off Kendrick. They do lose to Rockland, who ends up winning that whole thing. That Rockland team was insane. Watching a bit of that, Rockland beat Deary 44-16. That was the girl version of Lapway right now. But it's defensively. Their defense was top notch for Rockland, and they do end up winning. Then give credit to Kendrick for, after losing that game, running through the consolation bracket and winning it on that side. And then the 1A D1, Lapway again, 11th state title for the girls. We give all the love to the boys and how dominant that team is, and we'll talk about them in a second. Girls just as dominant. They win the opening round of this tournament by 51 points. They win the second round by 46 points. They win the title against Prairie, who is in the White Pine League. They beat them by 26. Like, none of these games were close. Lapway, hats off to them. Fantastic job. And you got to expect the boys to basically do about the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, is Prairie had knocked off Lapway one time earlier in the year. So, I mean, it could have been either place going on to that, but they're just so the coaching ability of the Lapway kids is just phenomenal to what they do out there. So
yeah. So again, a lot of representation in the north side of Idaho. The teams that we cover up here doing fantastically at state. I mean, obviously, Lapway the only ones that ends up winning state this year from our local schools, but a lot of great representation on the girls' side for sure. Right now, boys, again, just getting into districts, working their way through districts right now. I'm watching the end of Genesee and Clearwater Valley, which is a loser out game here in the 1A D1 tournament, which is happening over there at LHS, just a block or two away from me. Right now, it does look like Genesee is going to end up with the victory. They lead that one 54-49 with just 17 seconds to go. So it does look like the Bulldogs will advance. They will take on the loser of the Lapway Logos game, which will be happening here right after that game concludes. Earlier in that tournament, Potlatch defeated Troy 49-40 to stay alive. They will take on the loser of Prairie Kamei, which goes on about 7:30. And if you aren't going to head over to LHS to watch that basketball game, just go there to watch Shannon Wilson have to run back and forth across the court. You get entertainment however way you possibly can.
Yeah, it's going to be a great tournament. Look for Lapway to kind of handle Logos pretty well because looking at some of the numbers, I don't see Logos unless they're given maybe 40 points, making it much of a game.
Right. And again, anything is possible in basketball. I don't want to short Logos at all. And the season that they've had, it's just Kamiai has been ridiculous. What they put up 108 points in the opening round game against Troy. Yeah, Lapway. Just insane. I'm really hoping that things go to plan and Lapway does make the championship of that tournament because then it's on Friday. And hopefully I'll be able to go to that game. We will see how schedules all work out going forward. But yeah, just a lot of entertaining stuff. They're so good.
Yeah. Well, so then you look at the rest of the schedule for district play. You've got Orfino Grangeville tomorrow, Highland Timberline, Lewiston Lake City, like you talked about. You'll be up at Lake City.
I'll be up there.
And I hate to throw it in there, and it's just because we have seen so much of them, talked about them, but Post Falls Coeur d'Alene, that is going to be a good matchup tomorrow also.
Hopefully it's a good matchup. I'm rooting for Post Falls just for the fact that if Lewiston is unable to pull the upset against Lake City again, then Lewiston would host Post Falls on Thursday, and I wouldn't have to go back to Coeur d'Alene. Just the internet stuff up there, it's kicking my butt. So yeah, plenty of stuff. And then Deria Kendrick on Wednesday as well. So just lots of local basketball coming up. Boys State in Idaho is next weekend. So they're all ramping up to the end of that. Wrestling, we got a lot of stuff. We are already how do we always do this to ourselves where we're behind the schedules that we make?
Never fails. Fails.
For Lewiston, district winners, Hoyt Havas, Tristan Bremer, and Robert Storm all get first place at districts. Jace Hendren finishes second in his weight class. Cole Lockhart was third. Brendan Thill finished in fourth. In the all-girls North Idaho districts, Cassidy Rader finished in first at the 182 weight class, and Jolie Slider finished second at the 106. So 8 different wrestlers qualifying for state, which will be this weekend down in Pocatello. So congratulations to Slater, Rader, Hendren, Havas, Bremer, Lockhart, Thill, and Storm. And we will have all of that information and coverage on next week's show, which will be normal time, Tuesday to 6 to 8, because I can't do Monday 5 to 7 mentally and prep for it correctly. So Tuesday 6 to 8 next week.
So let's turn our attention to the MAC Classic 33. It is the state version of the Washington wrestling, and Clarkson sent 4 wrestlers over there, and they are all coming back with medals. It was awesome. I'm gonna throw a shout out really quick to Corey and to Jamie Thieveridge, both of them streaming games to the Facebook page. We were able to watch a lot of those on Friday as we were waiting for basketball. The same with Saturday too. Saturday morning, getting able to get up and watch these guys wrestle. So it was great.
They did the streaming and stuff, but I need Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler style commentary next year, please.
Yeah, I think that we need to get Jamie on that for next year. She needs to get, she got vocal a few times. You could really hear her screaming into the phone as she's recording, but shout out to them to bring the wrestling to all of us. And I tried to get it shared, but with internet too, it just kind of, it's tough with, especially how many people were watching her feed. So, but let's talk about the boys that finished up over there. Jordan McCamey in the 106-pound weight class. He comes home with 6th place. Jonah McCamey, big brother in the 170-pound. He ends up winning his final match by an injury default, takes home 5th place. Dawson Bailey wrestled. He had to come through the consolation side. He ends up in 4th in the 126-pound weight class. But let's just talk about it, and that's Kayla Rice. She wrestled unbelievable all season long. Some big notoriety of who she went against, and she ends up 2nd place in the 105-pound weight class, 2nd in state. I mean, you can't say,
very good.
You know, as much as watching her grow up in wrestling at the junior high level it was awesome to see her wrestle that final match. Unfortunately, she loses it 9-0 against a young lady that had went, and I think she only had one loss total on the entire year. Every tournament she entered, she won it, and so it just got paired up that Kayla had to face her, and then she comes home with second place, and you can't drop your head to that. So shout out to Kayla. Congratulations, young lady, on a great season there. Let's turn our attention a little bit to the Pullman crowd. We did have a few Pullman people that do listen every once in a while, and they had some folks over at the Matt Classic also. Aidan Peltier, Ivan Acosta both finished second in their weight classes. Jerion Smith finished third. Gavin McCloy finished sixth. But coming away with a state championship is Gabriel Smith in the 152-pound class. So he comes away with a first place bid from the Matt Classic 33. So Pullman finishes fifth in state in the 2A, and Clarkston finished 16th in the 2A division. So hats off to the wrestling programs in both Clarkston and also up in Pullman.
Very, very cool. Let's go to LC Sports real quick. As we already talked about the baseball team going now 15-1. But the big thing I want to just bring up, LC teams this weekend combined 10-0. 10-0 on the weekend for the Warriors. Fantastic. 4 of those coming from the baseball team. They swept Central Washington this weekend. LC men's tennis, had a sweep against Whitworth on Sunday, swept both of those matches 7-0. They host Whitman on Saturday. Women's tennis 2-3 on the year are headed out to Louisiana for 4 matches this weekend. They play LSU Alexandria on Thursday, Xavier and LSU Shreveport on Friday, and Dillard on Saturday.
I should have offered my assistance to Kai Fong. I traveled down for a weekend match down there.
He saw how you play tennis. He doesn't need your assistance. He's good. LCSC golf, if we don't have enough going on right now, it returned today. I haven't seen scores just yet, but it's today and tomorrow at Sterling Grove Shootout in Arizona. I'll try to get some scores in the second hour for you. But let's break down some college basketball as the LC men, fantastic weekend, winning both of their games, defeating Southern Oregon 72-66, and a come from behind victory against Oregon Tech 69-67. They trailed by like 11 points in the fourth quarter, come back to win. We'll talk to Khalil about that here about 10-15 minutes. But they earned the 3rd seed in the Cascade Conference. Far shout out from where we were looking at them a week or two ago of are they even going to make the tournament? End up as a 3 seed, finished 21-9 on the year. They finished 15-2 at home. Absolutely great season for them. Just think of where they could have been if they didn't have the 2 forfeits in there. Again, we'll talk to Khalil about that. But they will host Eastern Oregon on Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here at the P1FCU Activity Center. I will be there for that game. I'm sad I won't be there for the girls tomorrow, but again, I have prior engagements for that. But I will be there on Wednesday, written on the men's team, see if they can get things going. And then it'll be interesting to see where they go from there because it just gets completely reseeded. It's not the winner of 3-6 is going to play the winner of 2-7. It's just the top seed plays the bottom team, and the other 2 seeds will play each other. So we will see where LC goes from Wednesday. What is it? The semifinals are on Saturday. Championship is a week from tomorrow. On the women's side, they finished the year 25-3, which is basically 25-1 on the games that they actually took the court on. They've won their last 13 games, including their last 16 when they take the court. So just a ridiculous season for them. We were hoping to get a women's player on the show tonight. They had practice, like literally as we're doing the show. So hopefully we will get them on another time before the national tournament because they have locked in a spot in the NAIA tournament for being the regular season winners of the Cascade Conference. and they will host College of Idaho tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Go check that out at the P1FCU Activity Center. Lots there, Robert. What are you thinking about the Warriors all over the board right now?
I think the biggest thing is, and I know she listens to us all the time and she follows us, but Alicia must have had her running shoes tied on extremely tight this weekend. She was all over the place. 10 games, 10-0 for the Warriors this weekend. I'm excited. I'm hoping I can get over and watch the girls game tomorrow. Again, if not, I'm going to try to stream it. But watching the girls and boys the next 2 days. But I don't know how I feel about the reseeding part. I know it's part of the idea, but you would think that they would stay in their respectful positions there. But excited to watch how both these ball clubs, since having to forfeit those 4 games, 2 for the girls, 2 for the boys, it's been a totally different 2 ball clubs. They have just been lights out.
For sure. And I don't mind the reseeding for this because home team is hosting each of these games. So you're not sure where you're going to go anyways at this point. So might as well reseed. And it gives a chance for LC to possibly, if they can win on Wednesday, to be able to host again on Saturday if a couple upsets happen or not. So just another little added twist to it. Real quick on Major League Baseball. They're on the clock, man. We're running out of time. So obviously spring training has been pushed back a little bit, though they basically just ignored the fact that pitchers and catchers were supposed to report before they went, no, we're not going to delay anything. Well, you already did. But now they've set the deadline for February 28th. If they do not have a deal by then they will have to push back the regular season a little bit, and then we will go from there. They did meet today, and it was longer than 15 minutes. So that's a good sign, but they are still very far apart from the reports I have been reading. So we will see. They're supposed to be meeting every day this week. So fingers crossed.
So my question is, how long was the meeting?
It was over an hour. It was over an hour the last time I saw a tweet about it. I get the official time on the meeting, but they went over an hour. It's still far too short for this crap, but it's better than the 15-minute meetings we've been getting all winter long. Yeah. And the other thing I saw in baseball that's really interesting to me, I don't know if you saw this, Robert, but they were talking about a wrist device, kind of like what a quarterback has as far as calling plays, but it has a deal where you can push in buttons, and then the pitcher would get it, and that's how they would be calling their pitches if they get this device to work. What do you think of using that to call pitches?
So the catcher and pitcher have the same device. Same assuming.
Device, and you just hit the button of whatever code it is for whatever pitch.
Why wouldn't you just have the pitching coach or the head coach the manager do that?
So one of them, whoever, I don't care who enters it, but thoughts on that a solution for sign stealing?
It might speed up the game a little bit. I mean, that's one thing that MLB has been trying to solve the issue with over the many years, is how long some of the games get drawn out. But how do you think? For me, I think it's going to affect the batter more than anything, because you know how some of those batters like to get out of the box, reset their routine back.
Oh, they'll still do that for sure, but I don't know. It's interesting to me. I want to see how it works in practice. The one thing that I read that is kind of concerning is if you do it that way and let somebody off the court or off the field give out the pitches, then, I mean, analytics are huge into baseball already, but to have somebody go, all right, analytics say just now throw this pitch after this one, and it might be even harder on the batters at that point. So we will see how that goes. But I want to spend the next 6 minutes here before we get Khalil on to talk about the Daytona 500. Obviously, that was the Sunday. Crazy wreck in the Xfinity race on Saturday that just looked insane. The entire engine was just gone on the car on Saturday. If you haven't seen that footage, go check it out. New models now and new car types in NASCAR, and this was the first full race for them. You messaged me right after, so at least you got to watch part of it. What were your thoughts?
So we'll start with the Xfinity. I watched that car. Did they ever find the motor?
Yeah, it was down the track. It was down turn 3.
They kept bringing up the fact that the motor was totally gone, and you looked at it was how it was gone within.
Fox had a terrible coverage weekend, but there is one camera view that right before the big ball of flames, you can see the motor bouncing behind the car.
Yeah, I don't know. I finally got to watch the last about, I want to say 15 laps or so. And in those 15 laps, we had 3 cautions in the.
Oh yeah, normal Daytona stuff.
Yeah, everybody shifting around. I don't know. I mean, it was Cindric was just in the right spot at the right time. I think.
Welcome to restrictor plate racing, sir.
I think he was just right there. I feel bad for Bubba Wallace. He had pushed himself, got him, and you almost called it.
Don't feel bad for Bubba Wallace. Feel bad for me.
You almost
was that close to being right.
He looked like he was upset in his post race interview, but just to see his teammates get picked off, and he was the last one there, and Cindric didn't have anybody to help him, and so
he had his teammate, and then he pushed his teammate into the wall.
So
that's just how it goes. I thought it was really entertaining. It's obviously there were some hiccups with the car. There was a couple drivers, Kaz Gralla and Justin Haley, who both just lost the tire. Like the tire just left the car as they were racing because they've went away from the 5-bolt setup that most NASCAR fans know. You see the pit, the cars going to the pits, and the tire changers have to go around. Now it's just the one big section in the middle, like a Formula One car. So it'll make it go faster, but there was a lot of gun issues with that and getting any pressure into the gun to change the tire. Just minor things that they're going to have to tweak throughout the next couple of years. But overall, I thought it was a very entertaining race. I love the new cars. They look really, really awesome out there. Brad Keselowski has to understand that they don't react the same when you bump somebody from behind. He wrecked a lot of people just trying to be too aggressive with the bump drafting. And not to say that he's lost all talent or anything. It's just he's so used to the old gen cars and how you could get behind him and how the bumpers were very flat, especially on the Fords. And now that they're not, it's a little scarier to bump draft somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They were on top of each other so much. Denise and I were watching there at the very end of it. Just a little bit of a touch. It was sending those cars in different things. But love the new paint schemes on a lot of them. And I like the fact that a lot of these guys have the in-camera. Most of these cars are getting the in-cameras in. So that was the one plus that I thought Fox did is they cut away to a lot of different views after a wreck, and to see what the guys do and how many times the guys let go of the steering wheel in a spin.
Yeah.
And then it just, if I would freak out, man, I would be locked in.
No, and then you would injure yourself. That's what they're taught. You go into a spin, you've lost it, you just bring your hands in because you're going to have an impact and you don't want the steering wheel to jam into your arms. So, yeah, overall entertaining. I'm still not used to the side panel numbers being so forward on the car and not being centered. That'll be some getting used to, but we will see what happens on a non-restrictor race as they go to California next week. But there you go. There's your Daytona talk. We had some fun with it. I got to watch the first 100 laps in the background while I was doing the PA for the baseball game, and then was able to get home, watch the last 80 laps or so, and enjoy it. But you are listening to the R&R Sports Report. We will be back normal time next week, so don't worry if you're coming in late, especially if I was the one that asked you to do an interview and I told you the wrong times. Luckily, both guys have been awesome and changed their timing for me. But Tuesday, 6 to 8 next week. But right now, we're going to bring in the man, Khalil Stevenson, third time on the show, man. I think you're only behind Alicia now, as far as anybody that's been on the show.
Oh, I'm coming
multiple times.
Spot.
There you go.
How you guys doing?
We're doing good. How are you? Good weekend for your team this weekend.
Yeah. No, I'm doing good. Coming off of two wins, so always feeling nice after that. good 2-team wins, so it was really good.
Big senior night. Talk about senior night for you, being in the Warrior Blue all year.
I mean, senior night was almost storybook. I got a lot of family there. My mother and my grandparents got to fly out from California, and some other family and friends. So that was really nice to have, that home crowd feeling there, and then, to get a huge win like that against OIT, an upset at home in front of a great crowd. I mean, can't really write it any better.
You put us in the huddle there against the Oregon Tech on Saturday. You guys are down by about 10, 11 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Senior night, trying to get the right seeding against a very, very good team. Put us in that huddle, and what were you guys talking about?
Right. I mean, I think the last couple of weeks we've been preaching defense a lot, and that was pretty much what we were sticking through that second half. I think we were down 11 at one point, came back a little bit, and then got back down by 11. So we were just saying we need to stick with it, stick with the defensive end, try to string a couple stops together, then get some offensive baskets as well. So just trying to keep the defensive mindset, though, was really our huddles.
How impressive has the team been since having to take those 2 forfeits over there about a month ago? For me, watching the team, it just looks like a totally different fire, just totally almost like a gut check for you guys to, it's time to play ball. Let's take this and make it ours. Especially you have had a couple big games. O has had a couple big games. Yeah. So I mean, talk about that.
Yeah. Since those 2 forfeit losses, I mean, I think we took it really personal. Being the only team in the Cascade, I think, without a forfeit win really hurt a lot, I think, with those 2 losses. So we definitely have changed our mindset a lot, got back to our pack principles, really honing in and focusing on the defensive end. So I think that was our biggest takeaway from those 2 losses was like, since we unfortunately have to take 2 losses, that means we need to take another step up to make sure we don't take any more.
Talking to Austin Johnson before the season, and with you as the season was getting going, you both were talking about stepping up, maybe scoring a bit more, being the leader. 12.5 points per game. Are you at the level that you were hoping to be as far as a leader on the points, or is there still work to do going into playoff time?
I mean, I think there's always work to be done. I like where I'm at, but I know for us to get where we want to keep going, each of us as a team has to get better, myself included in that. As much of a good leader I've been so far this year, my job is nowhere near complete, and neither is anybody else's on the team. I think we all have a lot of room to grow and get better, which is, good going into March, still being able to say that we haven't played our best basketball yet and we can still get better. I think that's really a positive note.
So going into Wednesday, as I have to scroll back and remember, against Eastern Oregon.
Yep.
Thoughts on that game and what we should be able to expect in a couple of days?
I mean, big game. Beating anybody 3 times in one season is difficult. I remember when we played in the Frontier, that was a normal thing, in a conference, we played those teams 3 times. So having to do it again this year kind of has that feeling, 3rd time, it's kind of like a drag, same guys, but this is where it shows like the film, the scouting reports, the outside work, like the little things are going to show in this game. I think it's going to be a battle, 2 good teams going at it, good players, players that don't want their seasons to be over, right? We're all playing for something bigger still, so it should be a really exciting game.
Speaking of that and the something bigger, obviously they expanded the playoffs this year up to 64 teams, but still not in a comfortable spot. Now, obviously, like the overall answer would be let's just win the 3 games to get the automatic bid. But how many games do you guys feel like you have to win to feel safe enough to be one of those at-large teams?
I think we definitely have to win at least 2 in the Cascade tournament. I would say to be safe, definitely 2, and make it to that conference tourney game. Being that talk for the automatic bid of that nature. I don't want to say just winning one and then hopefully praying for the best. I'd rather make it more solidified if we win two.
Absolutely. It's very interesting to have now the 64 teams and have it feel more like the NCAA March Madness. Are you guys going to do any kind of a selection show party to see where you guys, if you make it,
maybe.
if you're not
I mean,
in
that
at
sounds
large,
good.
or
you may do that, maybe at one of the teammates' house or a coach's house. Maybe I know usually we watch the selection show up in the conference room with Brooke. She comes and a lot of other people from the offices. So we've done that in the past years. So maybe, this year we'll have some pizza, make a little party.
Either way, we need to record it so we can put it on the Facebook page. Your guys'
Yes.
reaction for
Right.
sure.
Yes, definitely need to record that one this year.
So which team are you wanting to focus on a lot coming in after Eastern Oregon? Is there somebody that you're looking ahead of the bracket in the conference tournament that you think you're going to get to face?
Look, I don't think we're looking past anybody. I mean, EOU is a great team, and both of our wins against them have been close and tough fought out wins, especially at their place. So I don't think we're looking past anybody. I know me personally, I would love to see College of Idaho. Just, the last time we played them left a pretty bad taste in our mouth. And I think I can speak for the whole team by saying we would love to play them again and, have another chance and run at them. But not looking ahead, I think we're really focused on EOU right now and just making sure we're locked in for that.
How big is it for you to have a big crowd like you had on senior night on Wednesday to be there to root you guys on?
I mean, we love having a big crowd. I mean, big crowd brings more energy, and I think that just ultimately brings more joy to the game in and of itself. Doing stuff putting on a show for people is also part of the game, along with winning. So it's like, it just kind of feels more natural, like we're kind of getting back to normal and things like that.
The one thing that I don't know if you've been able to experience, because it seems like every time this game happens, you guys are on the road.
Yeah.
But I want one of your games to feel like the Golden Throne. With
right.
the Lewis and Clark's basketball game. Have you been able to experience one of those games yet?
So my first, when I transferred here that semester, I was a redshirt, so I didn't travel with them on road trips. So that year I was here for the road trip when they were gone for the Golden Throne. So I got to see it then that year, yes. And it was one of the most packed I've seen our gym ever.
And we need that for the LC Warriors. I just saying. I was still laughing about it because I called the game for the Lewiston side. And at one point, I had a couple of the LC volleyball players sitting next to me because, again, that place was completely packed. And they were just trying to find any place to sit and was joking with them. I go, why can't we get this kind of crowd for you guys? So we need that for Wednesday.
Yes,
it's
we
so
would
much
love
fun.
that. Oh, it'd be great to have any resemblance of that type of crowd. I mean, for the community in and of itself, I think they would enjoy it too. Just, Wednesday night, fun home game for the local college. I mean, I don't see why not.
Well, that being said, I actually was at the home game where you guys played Eastern Oregon, and it was a good crowd there for that ball game. And I think it's gonna have to be another quick shoot. Get down the floor quick, like you guys were pushing the ball against that Eastern Oregon team. And you come out quick and on fire, setting the tempo there that game. I think that's the same thing that we will probably expect from you and Coach Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we just plan right now is just like I said last time we played. We didn't take care of the ball as well. We thought we should have, and we felt like we gave them a lot of open shots and we dodged a lot of bullets. So we just want to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's game.
Now, usually, we end our interviews and stuff talking about all these goofy questions and stuff.
Yep.
We've done all of that with Khalil. We would rather involve you more in the show. Do you want to do a couple topics with us?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because we're going to get into some basketball stuff. Again, anybody that's ever watched this show, we're 71 episodes
71.
into this thing. Anybody that's followed our show knows we're not the biggest basketball fans. We love college basketball. We love high school basketball. We love our local sports. But as far as like the NBA and stuff goes, I can't get into it as much.
That's another
So
world. It's another world.
So I was hoping we were when I was setting up the schedule that you would stick around a little bit. We'll talk about college basketball first, just because of the big topic that is blown up all over any of the sports talk knucklehead shows that they scream a lot more than Robert and I. But the situation at Michigan and Wisconsin yesterday, Juwan Howard, Greg Gard calls a timeout with what was it, under a minute to go. Howard takes offense to it. They don't talk nice in the handshake. Have you seen the situation? What are your original
So all I've
thoughts
seen
on it?
is kind of like the handshake line. I didn't get to see the timeout call and what Juwan was upset about. All I saw was the handshake line and the words exchanged by the coaches. So I mean, I can't really speak much on the play, but you know, I just think as a head coach, as a leader of a group of young men, no matter how heated or upset you may feel personally, I think he escalated the situation a lot more than it needed to be. But then again, I wasn't in the line. I wasn't hearing the words that were said. I'm just from the outside looking in. I would assume the head coach would have a little more composure than that.
So the update I saw a little while ago that they do suspend Juwan Howard for the rest of the regular season.
Okay.
And then just a few minutes ago, I had another post that they are fining the Wisconsin coach Gard $10,000, suspending the guard from Wisconsin, Neath, and then the two Michigan forwards, Terrence Williams and Debate, is both also going to be suspended. Do you think it was harsh enough?
I mean, yeah, I think I don't know all the kids that were involved in the punches thrown. Therefore, I didn't watch the video that many times. But I mean, yeah, for a situation like that, I don't find those punishments too harsh. I mean, all those kids know what the position they're in, and the responsibility they have being at that level, being that high caliber of an athlete. It comes with a lot of responsibility on both ends, coaches and players. So I don't think the consequences were too harsh in this situation.
As somebody that has self-imposed himself as the leader type, is it surprising to you that it's two leaders of the team, two coaches, that created such a melee? Or do you think coaches get just as heated as players do?
I mean, sometimes we forget at the end of the day that coaches are humans too, and at one time most were players. So I mean, coming from Juwan, I know he was a player. I don't know much about the Wisconsin coach, but there's always those emotions, and like Coach Johnson preaches now, it's like he always teaches us to play with emotion, but don't play emotional. And I think that kind of goes into that situation right there. Like, you coach with emotions, but don't let your emotions get the best of you. And I think that's just kind of how that situation played out.
Yeah, and if you take both coaches from their word, Greg has come out saying that he called the timeout because there was like 4 seconds left, and he had all his backups in, and he wanted to reset the backcourt clock. Juwan Howard just wanted the game to end because they were getting beat up pretty badly. Greg tried to, according to him, explain that to Juwan, but did it in a way that looked aggressive with putting his hand on his arm. Juwan wanted nothing to do with it, and then it just escalated from there. Definitely pointless and not needed, but very interesting.
Yes, exactly.
Again, things happen. Also this week, Oral Roberts and North Dakota State also got in a melee after the handshake line. From your look, you haven't not seen this yet, Khalil?
I haven't seen this one. I haven't.
Okay,
to me.
So I'll do my best to explain it. Robert's actually the one that sent it to me, or I would not have known. But North Dakota State's Malik Harden Hayes steals the ball. There's 10 seconds left, 5 seconds left on the clock, Robert.
Yeah.
Steals the ball from an Oral Roberts player. This game's over. North Dakota State was winning this game handily. North Dakota State player steals the ball from an Oral Roberts player, runs down and goes for a dunk as time expires. Doesn't get the dunk off in time, so the basket does not count. It's actually the head coach for Oral Roberts that has the issue during the handshake line and gets into it with Harden Hayes. That also turns into a bit of a melee between the two teams. Coaches both fined $5,000, 4 players suspended just from that account and not seeing the play, what are your feelings of what the player did when the game's over and just trying to get an extra 2 points, kind of showing up the opposing team, and then the altercation afterwards?
Well, as a player, I think it's kind of a known rule. We know if we're beating a team, and if they're down and they have the ball for the last seconds and they choose to walk the ball out, you don't try to steal and go score a basket. I mean, that's just kind of courtesy, a little bit. But as far as, to me, it sounded like you said the coach for Oral Roberts had a problem with the player. Is that what you said in the lines, or the other coach?
It's the Oral Roberts coach. So it's the opposing coach had an issue with him.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I do wish it was his coach that had the issue. I think that would have been even better.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, this it sounds like another whole situation of a bunch of emotions being spun out of control. I mean, basketball is a very emotional game, especially it being such a contact sport in a sense of perception by the ref, whether they deem it a foul or not, which leaves a lot of people unhappy a lot of times, which, that's the basketball if you play it. But so again, the game is real emotional, and if you don't have a good tight hold on your emotions, I could see it boiling over, and nowadays it seems to be happening a lot more, which is unfortunate.
So one thing that was brought up on these talking head shows, that I was watching a bunch of things getting ready for our show tonight, was the idea of completely just getting rid of the handshake line. Are you a fan or not a fan of that idea?
I'm actually not a fan of that. I think the handshake line keeps the spirit of sportsmanship still alive in the game. That my grandmother, who was here this weekend, reminded me, because before both of the games, before every game really growing up, but I haven't heard it in person lately, she said, remember, Mijo, play your best and always have good sportsmanship. And that's just things I've always carried with me being an athlete. And so I think if we take the handshake line away, that kind of just divides the whole sportsmanship concept even more.
And you make a good point of it. And with both Randy and I work in so many different sports and stuff, as this last week I covered junior high wrestling, of all things, at my school. But I was sitting next to a very well-known wrestling coach here in the Valley, and has been for years, been part of the family. And we looked over after a match, and it was like a 160-pound weight class. And these two kids that were wrestling had some great moves. The one kid from Pomeroy pinned him within about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So it was really short. But to see those kids after the match come over, and they stood in front of us, in front of the scorer's table for a long time, then just to converse about, well, dude, you flipped me over and I was not expecting this. And just for them to recap a match that quick and to see the love of the sport in their eyes and them talking about it. I looked over at Bob Rogers, and Bob was sitting there, a great coach in his own mind. He says that's exactly what all sports needs.
Yes.
Whether or not the game's over, you get crushed, but to be able to communicate with this kid that he'd only met one other time a week earlier, and to talk about their match, that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
And that's where I get so annoyed from people that get so upset. Like, you watch an NFL game and the players are laughing on the field right after the game, exchanging jerseys and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, they don't even really care about wins or loss." Yeah, they do. It's being able to respect the other team, whether you won or lost. Of, hey, they beat us. They straight out did it. No problem. Go shake their hands, chat with them, and being able to talk about the game afterwards. Yeah, the best example is hockey. You go watch the NHL. Two teams beat the holy hell out of each other for 7 games in like a 13, 14-day period. There's dozens of fights throughout the 7-game series where they're throwing haymakers at each other. At the end of the series, they stand in a line, shake each other's hand, probably go out and buy each other beers afterwards and have a good time. It's having that intensity and like you said, the emotion of the game, but still having the respect for the game and the respect for your opponent, that afterwards, win or lose, you go, man, you got me on that one.
Yeah.
And I think if like you said, the separation of that, and if we get rid of the handshakes in basketball, then it just separates everything even more, and then you just take it out on the floor. Like
Exactly.
I've been calling Lewis in games all year. We've had a couple really close moments in games where a couple players get into it, still go shake their hand afterwards, and I would be really sad if we got rid of that. I know the NBA doesn't do that. They just are like by half the time most of the teams off the floor before the game's even done.
Yeah.
But
No, I
I'd
think
love to see that back in sports.
I think it would be really unfortunate if they took that out. I mean, sportsmanship is everything in sports. I mean, to be able to, between the lines, those 40 minutes, however long the game is, yeah, you're trying to go at the opponent and you're, trying to do your best and make them play their worst. But once that game is over, you know that you each put in the work. So win or lose, that they have your respect and they earned it.
Absolutely. All right. We've been talking about us not following the NBA as much as other sports. Did you watch the All-Star weekend at all?
Not really Friday and Saturday because I was with family a lot, but I did get to catch like the end of the game on Sunday, which is the better part, I guess, because I heard the first half wasn't much.
I think there was more defense played in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And with the highlights I
saw. Did watch
the
highlights
NBA
of the
All-Star.
dunk contest. Didn't seem too interesting.
That it's horrible. It was so bad. It was on when I was at work on Saturday. I think more dunks got missed than made, and most of the dunks then got made were not that fantastic.
Yeah. Listen, it's not Spud Webb or Dominique Wilkins dunking anymore.
All right, old man.
Anymore.
Good.
Listen, I'm gonna call it out. It is. It's not those guys. It's not Dr. J dunking the ball anymore.
None of those three are Vince Carter, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
Vince Carter is better than all three of those guys as far as dunking goes. Which there was one guy that really wanted to do a Vince Carter dunk and could not.
He didn't.
No, he tried to do the whole arm in the hoop, and it just looked like a normal dunk because he couldn't get up over. So it just looked like he dunked the ball. You see, I was watching a bit of it, and he was even like talking to some of the other players. Like, I tried, I just couldn't wrap it around.
Eric does bring up a good thought. The Rising Stars Challenge, that was a little interesting. They played to 50. Then when in the bracket series, they brought into 4, and then they come in for the final one. They play into first guy to 25. So
I do have to say the favorite things that I have seen from the weekend. I watched the only highlights I've seen of the All-Star game is Steph Curry's 3-pointers because that guy is just insane. But again, if there was many of those highlights of him just running around people and they're just like, whatever, you do whatever you're doing. And so some players play, some players don't. But my favorite things of the weekend were, of course, the skills challenge like he talks about. I think it's really interesting to see all the different dribblings and passing that you have to do. And you get some WNBA players in there as well and have fun. And this half-court contest thing that they had. I don't know if that was an actual event or they just kept throwing things together. But they had a bunch of NBA players just hoisting up threes. And then I saw it was the rookies versus the Cavaliers, I think is what it was, in a who could hit a half-court shot the fastest competition. That was pretty good. So that's what I want to see. All-Star games, like the Pro Bowl, the All-Star game, both stink. They're both horrible. Just nobody wants to be there. They just want to be there and have fun. So let's just have the fun competitions. And get out of here.
That's funny.
Eric says the fourth quarter was intense. Love the change.
I do. I will say that the change to the fourth quarter has made it more intense because every basket is important because there's no time on the clock. So it's all about made baskets.
Yeah, kind of like the Big Three league or whatever is going on. Yeah, I do like, and it does bring in a bit more urgency there in the fourth quarter. And it's just, you're just there to watch goofiness for 3 quarters. I mean, nobody's expecting this to be the way it was played back in the 80s where they really wanted to win and stuff. And they're trying to avoid injuries. And then Chris Paul has his injury anyways. I don't know if that was on the All-Star game or not, but now he's out for the regular season. But
yes, it's not Magic versus Bird anymore. What the heck?
Old. You're so old.
I'm gonna bring it up all the time.
Okay, speaking of old, it's gonna be good because we have 3 generations of people. I'm not gonna associate myself with Hagen's generation because we're like 8 years apart. But they did announce the NBA All 75 team.
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue with it. Again, I don't follow basketball or the NBA that much. Like, I was way into it in the 90s, back when they played defense. But out of the 75 players, 11 of them are still playing today. Is that recency bias or what do you think, Khalil?
I mean, 11 out of 75. That doesn't seem like a crazy number, but I feel like it's a pretty high percentage for an all-time great list.
There's
like,
one.
How can we define these people and consider them an all-time great when they're not done yet?
There's one name that really stood out to me that drove me nuts. Carmelo Anthony is not one of the 75,000 best players in the NBA. As a Knicks fan, I can't do it. He's a very good player. He's not near this list to me.
I mean, as a scoring wise, I think is he top 10? He's definitely top 10 scoring.
Well, that's only because he holds the ball for 15 seconds, puts the defense to sleep, and then hoists up a three.
That's true. That's true.
His move.
That is true. I think he may be one of those guys that kind of snuck into that 75 that may not have met the full qualifications, but knew the right people.
To be fair, it does sound like they took all 50 players from the original 50th anniversary and added 25. And I haven't looked through the whole list. I would guarantee that the 25 names were all recent. Be my guess, but still, it just seemed like a lot. That 11 of the 75 are still on a roster right now. That it's not. Oh, they played in the last few years. Like they're still currently on rosters.
Right. Yeah.
And some of them, it's like they're still so young. Like Giannis is fantastic, but he's been in the league for what, 6 years?
Yeah.
And he's already on this list. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. Bias.
A little old man. Anyway. I'm not Robert. Since you are the old man, what do you think of this list?
I don't think that some of these guys even should be on it yet. I mean, they are not done playing. I do like Giannis. I love the way he plays the game. And shout out with Aidan. Aidan was on the show a little while ago. Kevin Durant makes that. Kevin Durant is a great player. I love watching him play the game. I think he should be on the list eventually. I don't know if I would put him on just because he's in the active list. I mean, you got Chris Paul on that list. Anthony Davis is on there. Steph Curry is on there. I mean, some good names that should eventually be there, but I think they're on there a little too early.
So I'll do this, Khalil. I'll name the 11 active players that made this list, and then I'm going to put them up against another team, and I want to see who you pick to win. Basketball game, both teams in their prime.
Okay.
All right. So the 11 active players is Giannis, Carmelo.
96 Bulls. Oh, wait. You didn't want me to chime in right there?
Calm down.
Yes.
You don't even remember any of the 96 Bulls. That was after you stopped watching basketball back in 1973. Just stop. All right. Like Bird and Magic had both retired by 96. Okay.
Yeah.
But Giannis, Carmelo Anthony, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Durant, Harden, LeBron, Kawhi, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook. That's Team A versus the 92 Dream Team.
Dream Team. The thing that stood out to me the most is your only center for Team A would have to be Giannis. If I heard this correctly.
I don't follow the NBA as closely as I did in the 90s. Is he the only center left in the NBA?
No. I mean, we have Embiid. We have a couple other true centers that stretch and do some power, like stretch four type of things. But no, Giannis, I just don't see Team A winning that game. No way. It's the Dream Team. Nah.
I'm still disappointed the Dream Team went with Christian Laettner over Shaq compared to what those two did in their career.
Right.
The Dream Team would look even better if it was like, and Shaq.
Yeah, just stick them in there for the photos.
All right, now we're going to finish up here with Khalil with What we do every show now, I don't know if Khalil, you've been watching any of our stuff, but we now do a sports-related draft, and we did it for weeks. We had a lot of fun over weeks. We both get 3 rounds to pick a person or an item or whatever based on our sports-related draft. And Robert got all mad because I kept winning every week, and he said I was biased as the judge.
You were the one judging him.
That is a little bias.
So back in December, we have started bringing in guest judges, and we knew we were going to have you on the show. So we figured what better person to have on here than you to be on our guest. Of course, it's not basketball related. We didn't think about this all the way through, but
okay.
But you are going to be our guest judge, and you're going to pick the best person here. So, Robert, you, sir, were the one that got to pick the draft.
Listen, I'm going to precursor that for a second because I know Eric is here. The only ones that I've technically won have been W2UM network people that work for the old network that you were still part of. So hopefully Khalil's going to get me back on the win track because I'm on a 5-draft skid right now.
Hey, don't play the pity card.
I'm going to play.
Let your terrible team do the talking. All right.
All right. So Khalil, I think we've talked before. You do follow a little bit of football, just a little bit, right? So I know you'll be all right on the right track. So Super Bowl just finished up this last week, and now we enter this kind of short 3 weeks before the combine and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Super Bowl happening, it is hard to see some of these guys lose. And so for me, I thought, all right, let's figure this out. Who is the best player to never win the championship game? Who is the best player ever to not be able to get there? So with me picking the category, Randy gets to draft first. So I'm going to let Randy explain his first pick.
Oh, and it was the easiest. This is here. I'll just let you know, Khalil, the fun about our sports related drafts is one person has to come up with a topic and the other person gets to take the no-brainer pick. It's just how it works. And every time you come up with a topic, it's like, can I come up with one that has more than one no-brainer? Robert did not do that this time, so I appreciate it.
Yes, I did.
Dan Marino, easily the no-brainer number one. He is the poster child of guy that just could not win the Super Bowl. Everyone, you talk to anyone, whether it's somebody that's Khalil's age, somebody that's my age, somebody that's Robert's age, who's the best player not to win the Super Bowl? Stan Marino, one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks of his generation. MVP back to the year I was born, way back in 1984. 9-time Pro Bowler, one of the best passers before, passing stats just ballooned out of control, and everyone now throws for 5,000 yards. But 61,000 passing yards on his year, 420 touchdowns, just could not quite win the Super Bowl and had several chances to do so. But that is my first pick. Robert, who's your second? Who's your first pick?
My first pick has got to be the guy that, and he hung him up early. He hung him up early just because, he was getting banged up. But give me Barry Sanders. I mean, if you're not taking Dan Marino, Barry Sanders. Barry played from 89 to 98, almost just over 1,500 yards, 99 touchdowns. He was offensive rookie of the year, offensive player of the year. I want to say 4 times. He was MVP one year. But to play on a team that never made it never make it into the playoffs, but just a few times. I think he has a total of 6 career games in the playoffs because Detroit just sucked that bad.
They were bad.
They brought it in the bag, bring in the grocery bag. But if you got to talk about two different guys, Dan Marino, I have to agree, Randy. Dan Marino and Barry Sanders have to be 1-2 on the list, whether it's flip-flop.
It's not flip-flop. It's just 1-2. Khalil, what do you think of the first round so far?
I'm going to have to say it's really close. When you asked the question, both of those names popped into my head. So I would say it's a tie right now.
Ooh, we got a good one then. All right, my second pick. And when you bring up the topic of players that just could not win the big game, win the Super Bowl. You have to, if you're making a list, add somebody from the Buffalo Bills who made it to the Super Bowl 4 straight years and just could not win the Super Bowl. So then I had to figure out which Buffalo Bill I was going to put on my list. Was it going to be Jim Kelly? How about Thurman Thomas, another very good running back? But I didn't want to go running back, who I do think Thomas is a lesser skilled running back than Barry Sanders. So how about the greatest sack master of all time, Mr. Bruce Smith, and his 200 career sacks, 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time first team All-Pro, played all 4 years there with the Buffalo Bills where they just could not quite win that big game. How about not only the 1980s All-Decade team, but he was also on the 1990s All-Decade team. Just one of the possibly one of the best defensive players ever, and he could never win the Super Bowl. So easily the best defensive player to never win the Super Bowl. So that is my second pick.
I think if I was you, I would have taken either Thurman or I would have taken Jim Kelly. Heck, for you picking worse. Smith, if you were taking Smith, I would have taken Scott Norwood instead. He lost him.
He won a Super Bowl.
He lost them all, though.
He won a Super Bowl.
But Bruce Smith, good player. But, you know, the guy that I think is even a little bit better, and he was more of a weapon. He was a great player, one of the top tight ends to ever play the game. You got to be Gonzo. Give me Tony Gonzalez. 1,500 yards. He averaged 100, I want to say over 100 yards a game for the most part. Bad part is he played for Kansas City when they were not all that good. I mean, he had a career of 7 career playoff games in the 3 years that he was in Kansas City. He only touched the ball 19 times.
Wow.
And you looked at what he did in the regular season. The regular season, he averaged touching the ball at least 80 times in a year. So how many Pro Bowls? 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 10 Pro Bowls. So, I mean, you got to go offense instead of the defensive side on this one. Defense
wins championships. Except for the Buffalo Bills.
I said not on the Buffalo Bills. If you're going to go that way, why didn't I take Ray Lewis and put Ray Lewis on there? They could have ran so many more. Defense won.
Ray Lewis won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Go ahead. Take Ray Lewis in the 3rd round. Now to win it instantly.
I got one more ahead of him, though. All right, round 2. Khalil.
You can't have him because he won it. That's the point.
So round 2.
Yeah.
Bruce Smith. Or you got Tony Gonzalez?
I'm definitely going with Tony Gonzalez off of the pure fact that I had never heard of the other player's name until this interview.
God, hold on. I got to pick somebody that's new because I went old school with my 3rd pick.
Yeah, I forgot. I already have it done. It is made. You have to stick with your pick because
sack leader of all time. He's never heard of. The legendary Bruce Smith. Just go watch his highlights. I
might now after this.
You'll message me and go, I was wrong. Andy, I was wrong. Just saying. Oh, goodness.
All right. Round 3. Randy, who is your 3rd pick?
I'm so glad I went offensive player the 2nd time. How about Eric Dickerson? We talk about Barry Sanders leaving too soon. Eric Dickerson, I think, left too soon, too. He played longer than Barry Sanders did, for sure. Just 11 seasons. But how about the fact that we keep adding games to the NFL regular season, and still nobody can beat Eric Dickerson's 2,100 yards in a season? Right. Just completely dominated offensively. He led the league in rushing 4 of his 11 seasons. NFL rushing leader for a couple of those years, all-decade team as well, has his number retired all over the place. Dude was a beast on the running game. Unfortunately, he played for the Rams and the Colts, who were not good in the 80s at all. So that is my 3rd pick.
I was going to say, how many times did he make it into the playoffs? Not hardly enough. So for that reason, he already lose. He doesn't make it into the playoffs. He doesn't.
You wanted to pick somebody that won a Super Bowl.
I said I could have.
No, you
For
could.
my-
I beg you to.
My last one has to be the Hall of Famer, the 5-time Pro Bowler, the 19. I'm gonna now date how old I am by saying this year, the 1979 MVP. He was the Hall of Famer on the 1970s All Football Team, 3-time Offensive Player of the Year. You gotta go with Earl Campbell, the face of the Houston Oilers. Yeah, he played in a total of 6 postseason games. He a heck of a running back. Only ended up having 419 yards rushing, so a little rough, but 4 touchdowns. You got to go with Earl. A lot of these running backs games now is off watching what Earl Campbell did. So
Yeah. Oh, what Earl Campbell did for 3 seasons. Let's go back and look at his 400 yards run to 1984. Right. Dude was a beast for a couple of years. All right.
Okay.
All right, Khalil.
I think round 3. Or what are we looking at?
So
Oh,
these are the pictures by round. You got Dan Marino up top
Mhm.
with Barry Sanders, and then Bruce Smith and Tony Gonzalez, Eric Dickerson against the Beast, Earl Campbell. First of all, talk about the round 3 and then who your overall winner is.
So, first of all, I'm going to start round 3. I'm definitely going with Randy here. Solely because, like he said, that record, even though they're still adding games to the NFL season, still can't be broken. It's kind of like a Wilt Chamberlain record. Just don't break those type of things. But so I guess that kind of leaves the overall in a tie. So I have a proposal.
Ooh.
What if we make the tiebreaker last question? We'll bring it back to basketball now. Who was the greatest to never win a title basketball-wise?
Robert, you go first. I gotta think. I gotta think.
Got it real quick,
Oh boy.
I guarantee you, we both go in the same era.
I was
I
thinking.
guarantee it.
I don't know. Boy, I'm stuck. I don't know. Probably Karl Malone.
Mm,
It's a good one.
I mean, the only reason I'm thinking that way is I'm thinking Stockton. I'm thinking Stockton Malone. There's another player I could probably throw out there, but I don't want to tip my hand. But I think I'd have to go Carl. Give me the mailman.
Carl was a very good pick. The moment you asked that, Khalil, all I could think of was my Nick fandom and Patrick Ewing and all the times he got shut down by the Chicago Bulls. And, if Michael Jordan wasn't a thing, he would have won several. But I don't think he was the best player in that era. For me, I want to go with one that, yes, Michael Jordan kind of blocked a little bit, but just my favorite player to hate, minus Michael Jordan. Again, as a Knicks fan, what he did in the early 90s to my team back when I really watched basketball. But the other player that I absolutely love to hate, and there's a great 30 for 30 about it, Reggie Miller. Absolutely would dominate basketball games to the point, what was it, 8 points in 12 seconds or whatever it was that helped eliminate the Knicks. Would just take over games. And the fact that a lot of his career came after Michael Jordan and still just was not able to win that big championship. I've made it to at least one finals, if not 2. That's my pick.
Yep. It's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. Now it's tough on me.
I knew we were both going 90s. That's the only thing. In the moment you brought that up, I was like, that I knew.
Right. I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go with Robert here. Robert's gonna be the winner of this one. My 4th decision, probably just because that powerhouse that John Stockton and Karl Malone had, it it's almost kind of like, how did they never get one?
Yep.
It's like it was like A and B. Every day in and day out, you knew the pick and roll was coming, but you couldn't guard it. So it was just, I think that's bittersweet. That they never got one, but to be two of the greatest players ever play the game, that team. I know we're talking about Carl, but I kind of added John there. But yeah, I just think that's crazy.
What I mean, I respect the decision. It was very, very difficult. Karl Malone was one of the ones I was him and Han with as well. But again, he had John Stockton. And
yeah.
So I'm just saying, Reggie Miller had
nobody.
Rick Smits.
Rick Smits.
I can't even think of one right now. I think Mark Jackson played for that team for a couple years.
For a couple, yep.
But,
yep.
I did watch his 30 for 30 too.
It's so good. I absolutely hate that man in the most respectful way, but I love that 30 for 30. It's very good. But Khalil, it's very sad to say this is your last time ever coming on the show now.
Man.
Don't let him BS you.
No,
I'll make sure you're here.
Okay, good. I want to beat that record.
Right, absolutely. We'll have you on maybe before or after this Cascade Conference tournament gets done. Hopefully, talk about the NAIA tournament coming up. Khalil,
yes.
Always a pleasure to have you on. You're one of our favorite people to have on, and that's why you've been here 3 times. You're always a lot of fun.
No, I love being on, talking with you guys, chopping it up. It's always a great time. Thank you for having me,
man. Khalil, appreciate it. Go watch him on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Night. I'll be there.
Yes, come out.
Hey, by the way, I'm covering this game for the Tribune. I expect a good interview after you have a big game on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got you.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Khalil.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
bye.
Khalil.
Have a good night.
All right.
He's fun. I knew I was trying to be nice since I went first in the main draft to let you go first. I think I would have went Carl with my pick too. So I cannot be mad if that's the tiebreaker that he went with, and that's what he was basing it off of. And I like the Mega Bowl. Do you know what the Mega Bowl is, Robert? Eric was asking me what the Mega Bowl was, and I don't even know.
Isn't that have to do something with cricket?
No, it's an NAIA thing.
Oh, I thought, he brought up cricket earlier, and so yes.
Eric, who would you have picked in the main draft and in the tiebreaker? Who do you pick? I'm just curious now. I got destroyed just by the fact that he didn't know who the hell Bruce Smith was. If I would have known who our guest judge was, and we were going to go with Khalil, which we were trying to figure out guests today or yesterday, and we had already done our sports draft figured out, I definitely would have picked other people than people that played in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. Yeah, so you go.
Well, he also had.
But the problem is, Eric likes my picks. But if he was the guest judge, he would not have voted for me just because he's a W2M and he calls me Rancid Randy for a reason.
And see, I think I had the best ones the other time. What was it, 3 weeks ago with the commercials? I think him and Harry both picked me. And, yep. So Tony would have been wrong.
There you go. 5-game winning streak is over.
Snap it. Bring me the title. I'm going to put the title right here. I get the belt this way.
It's ready. I'm just going to hold it for a little bit. Yeah, we talked about it before. It's soon. Next month, we're doing the sports movie bracket. Did I have the bracket done? It's set. It's beautiful. It's going to cause so much trouble.
I can't wait to be part of that. I want to see that.
We'll be doing it live on the W2M stuff with Eric's show. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. All right. Well, what else we got left on this show? I've lost all sense of where we're at.
We got a couple little NFL news. We'll just bring it up. The big one today was Pitt. How do you feel about Pittsburgh signing Brian Flores to the defensive side of the ball?
It's so good for Pittsburgh. Brian Flores is a fantastic coach. Interesting that Brian took an assistant job, but again, get your foot back in the door. Obviously, I think him and Tomlin are probably good friends, and Tomlin was doing him a solid, and Flores will do Pittsburgh a solid by being a great assistant.
Yeah. The only other thing really happening with movement was will appease our Seattle fan base a little bit. They finally hired defensive coordinator Clint Hurt this week. Also, Sean Desai bumps up to associate head coach. So a little bit of changes happening in Seattle, but really, everybody just kind of taking the week off. With we're down to 2 weeks until combine hits.
Yeah, well, if the combine even happens.
Yeah.
There's all the drama going around the combine, and will people sit out or not with the new rules and the regulations they're doing this year. I'm not even a combine person. I love the draft. I love prepping for the draft and trying to figure out what my team is going to do. Because again, as a Jets fan, that's all we have to look forward to. I can't do the combine. I don't care what you run in shorts. I just don't care. All right, it just reminds us of the year that you and I did Little League coaching. And even then, for tryout, it's like, how the hell do you even rate these kids? He threw the ball. Cool. But...
And how some of the guys and we knew who were coaches and how they scouted them. It was beyond me watching how they were picking people.
Totally random. And who knows? Sports that don't get enough airtime. How about the Winter Olympics being done? USA finishes in 4th with 25 medals. They had 8 golds. I'll just run through them real quick. Lindsay Jacobelez ends up with 2 gold medals. She won in the women's snowboard cross, and she also won with Nick Baumgartner in the mixed team snowboard cross. Nathan Chen won in the men's singles figure skating. Ashley Caldwell, Christopher Lillis, and Justin Schoenfeld won in the mixed team aerials skiing. Chloe Kim won in the women's snowboarding half pipe. Aaron Jackson, who was a sprinter 4 years ago and had never been on skates before, won in the women's 500-meter speed skating. Callie Humphreys, who 4 years ago was a Canadian citizen, won for the women's monobob bobsled, and Alex Hall won in the men's slope style skiing. Unfortunately, the U.S. curling team made it to the semifinals and then lost to both Great Britain and Canada and did not medal. But thoughts on the Winter Olympics? Did you watch any of it?
I watched a little bit of curling, but that's it. Nothing major. Nothing grabbed my attention this year with the Olympics.
I want to be on a curling team.
I love that was my favorite event going into the last couple of years. So, yes, Eric brings up a great point. USFL a couple months away. I'm more excited. I'm more excited about AFL.
Yes, bring in Aussie rules. I'm done. Spring football can go over there until one of these dang leagues can last more than a season. I'm not going to pick a team to root for. I'm not going to pick a player to pick for. You get through one season, and then I will get into your league. It's embarrassing. And XFL is supposed to come back next year, and they're working with the NFL as far as the same equipment and safety regulations, and they still swear that they're not a minor league for the NFL. That's all these leagues are. They're minor leagues to the NFL, whether they want to believe they are.
Exactly.
Or not. Tournament Champions is going on in the PBA. All the qualifying is going on for that right now. PGA had an event. Joaquin Niemann won his second career win, going 19 under par. Joel Damon finishes +4.
And he kept his shirt on.
That's disappointing.
And he kept his shirt on. Yeah. Big shout out though. Neiman went wire to wire in this competition, in this one. So great shout out. Great way to get his second career win.
Minor league cricket coverage. You're lucky enough you've gotten me to watch cricket highlights. That's where I'm at with that. All right, sir. Give me this week in sports history.
Oh, my Lord. So I think Eric might get one of these right, but we'll see. 1961, the entire U.S. Figure skating team of 18 dies in a 707 crash. 1965, the NFL adds its 6th official to the field of play. Also, in 1986, tennis star Jimmy Connors is fined $20,000 and suspended for 10 weeks for getting in an arguing match with one of the officials. He was forced to miss the French Open, marking the first time that any player had ever missed a Grand Slam tournament due to suspension. 1990 was another lockout year for baseball. and how things were closed down there. 1997, at the age of 25, Jeff Gordon is the youngest winner in the Daytona 500. And now the youngest one is Trevor Bayne. He is won the race a couple of years ago. He was 20 years old and 1 day, and it was just his second career start. And then in 1988, Dale Earnhardt wins his first 500 in his 20th try as a racing at the Daytona 500. Couple of big, 1998. Couple of big birthdays happened over the last week. Darrell Green, I think, is still one of the most underrated cornerbacks to ever play the game for the Washington Redskins at that time. John McEnroe's birthday was this last week. Jerome Bettis, Jim Brown, Michael Jordan, and also Charles Barkley. And I threw this two in here. 1998, Harry Carey passed away right about this time. And you definitely know this, but death of Kerry Von Erich. He passed away from suicide on February 18th, 1993.
All right, trivia it up, sir.
All right, so I have two. Do you want to go football first, or do you want to go racing?
Let's go racing.
Let's go racing.
500.
All right, so it was the Daytona 500, and I did talk about Trevor Bayne now being the youngest driver to win the 500 at the age of 20 years old and 1 day. Who is actually the oldest winner of the Daytona 500?
That's got to be Earnhardt.
It is not Earnhardt.
No? I'm trying to even think.
Now remember, because Earnhardt died when he was 49 years old.
Yeah, but most racers don't last that long. Eric says Petty.
It is not Richard Petty.
God, I can't even think. It's got to be in the 80s then, right? 70s, 80s?
I will give you the 1988 was the year.
Yeah. Oh, man. How about Yarborough?
This was one of my dad's favorite peoples too, but Bobby Allison was 50 years old, 73 days. The football one is going to be easier, but I want you to tell me all of them. And I did say it a minute ago. NFL added its 6th official. NFL started with 3 officials and now has 8 officials. Can you name all of the 8 officials that are in the NFL game?
No.
I figured
Ed Hockley's son. Ed Hockley's
I didn't say
cousin.
the names, the positions of the officials.
I don't know what the hell they're called. And I call games. I never know. It's like sideline judges and back judges, and I got nothing. Names of referees, I got nothing.
There you go. Referee, line judge, umpire is the ones that Eric got. Those were the first 3. The rest of them that come in is side judge, down judge, back judge, field judge, and replay official.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
You stumped me for sure, even though it was easier. I'm more sad about the NASCAR one and forgetting Allison. Wow. But that was a little bit before my time. But
I'm 3-0 tonight.
I know the name.
I'm 3-0 tonight.
Still very bummed that we picked a young college student and only talked about players in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was not planned out very well by us. But Robert does snap the 5-game winning streak. That's okay. I will get him next week. And next week, don't forget, we are back to our normal time, Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. We will most likely be back at the station, back to normal now that high school basketball is wrapping up. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Have a good week. Go support the Warriors. Women tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Men Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Both at the PO1 FCU Activity Center. And then baseball doubleheader on Saturday and Sunday. Go check all that out. But that is Robert. I'm Randy, and we